want to be clear. No one's banning books. We're talking about a public school library. Children don't have unfettered access to the internet at school. And the subject matter in the books that moms are concerned about are the same things that kids don't have access to on the internet. So it just feels very hypocritical, right? No, why is no one out there protesting for, free the internet in schools?
What is the expertise that you have and other Moms for Liberty advocates have to decide that a book, an award-winning book like All Boys Aren't Blue, isn't appropriate for students to read?
What a tragic story of a young man who's anally raped by his adult family member. So you have incest, rape, pedophilia. Joy, you said you'd let me answer, so I'm going to answer
Please
for you.
do.
Tell me what the context around the strap-on dildo or the rape of a minor child by a teacher.
Hold on a second.
No, wait, we're talking about public school.
One moment.
All right.
So now you've asked me questions.
Sure.
I'm going to answer it. You just gave me very specific information about this book, so you're presenting yourself as somebody expert. So who's the main character in the book?
The main character is the author.
What's his name?
George, I believe, is his first name.
Because you're giving me very specific information that is.
You're asking me to remember the name of an author.
You
the
just
name of the
remembered
author
very
doesn't.
specific name.
Joy.
Here's
you didn't answer my question.
No. I'm going to answer. Your
Great.
question.
I would love to hear that.
Absolutely. Well, I'm interviewing you and you're not interviewing me. So let's just make sure it's a conversation. Okay,
great.
So what I'm saying to you is that as you are not an expert.
I don't have to be an expert to know that dildos aren't appropriate for public school. I mean, come on, let's get real.
Why is it your right or a Moms for Liberty activist's right to say that a parent who wants their child to have access to this book, which gives a personal experience of this author, then why doesn't a liberal parent, for instance, or a parent of an LGBTQ kid, why don't they have a right for their child to just have access to this book? Why is it your right to say they can't?
Again, we're talking about incest, rape, and pedophilia.
And each parent, each parent has to decide what is appropriate for their child to read. So I want you to answer. I'm going to ask you one more time.
Right.
What is your right to tell a parent who wants their child, who might feel seen by this story? Why don't they have the right? Why don't they have the right as a parent to say, my child can have access to this book?
If a child feels seen by this story, that means that they have been the victim of a predator. That means that they have either been raped by a family member.
And your proof of that is what?
You just said that if a child feels seen by this story.
You're now making assumptions.
But if a child has been raped, we should do a lot better than put a book on a library
shelf. Now you're literally creating a story behind a child that you don't know. Let me show you a form. This is a form that can be obtained in Broward County, Florida. Okay. I'm going to show it to the audience, and then I'm going to show it to you. Okay. This is called the opt. Yeah, please. I'm going to hand it to you. So it's called the opt-out form. So that Moms for Liberty, why not advocate that every school in America have an opt-out form so that a parent who doesn't want their child to access a book like All Boys Aren't Blue, then each parent, including a liberal parent, a black parent, a parent who wants their child to read a book about African American history, then they want
children to read books.
Why not just opt out for yourself rather than tell other parents what they can and cannot?
First of all, I think what you're talking about here is a wonderful step in the right direction. We should be having conversations about this. This is about local control. A lot of these decisions are made at the local school board level. And that's where these decisions should be made. And there should be vibrant conversations about what's happening in our public schools. Joy, however, maybe we could just put all the books with all the graphic sexual content. The dildos, the rape, the incest.
I'm sorry.
Let's do a back room. Let's put a curtain up in the library like they used to do.
One moment. I have seen tapes of what Moms for Liberty does, and you all go into school board meetings and you read graphic stuff.
Conversation.
All right, so listen, I'm all for people going through trials and tribulations and getting on top of that trial, getting on top of their experience and becoming a better individual and being successful. So this George M. Johnson individual, he was molested by a family member from what I understand. That's why the Moms for Liberty woman talked about incest and things of that nature. The young man was violated as a young individual, and now he's a successful author. Now they're banning his book in schools. And so, in my opinion, this is the thing. We don't want to hear about that. Do I have empathy? Yes, I do. Do I want? I don't know a heterosexual man that's going to advocate or be glad that another man was sodomized. I don't know a single one. But when it comes to our kids going into the library and checking out a book to read, we don't want to hear nothing about that. And this Joy Reid young lady talking about they have an opt-out form. Listen, We shouldn't even have this type of content inside the schools. We are coming to school to learn. When it comes to situations that deal with psychosis and psychology and things of that nature, when it references life experiences, that's the job of the parent. That's why you have parents. Not the medical system, not the school system, not the counselors at the school. That is the parent's job. If you want to get some outside help because the parent doesn't understand some things, fine. I don't have an issue with it. But I don't know a man on earth, heterosexual man at that wants his child to go, whether male or female, wants their child to go to a school where they got content that involve dildos, they have content that involve rape and incest. I don't know a single one. I'm sorry. So at the end of the day, listen, y'all can sit up here and try to normalize this foolishness. We're not going for it. Some of us are not scared to stand up and speak out. Okay? So y'all listen, all the men, all the real heterosexual men. I'm not talking about the men that dip and dab in Chocolate City, that smell like Dookie. Not y'all. We talking about men that only like women. Men that believe that a man was made for a woman and a woman for a man and nothing else. Okay? We don't want our kids reading this nonsense. And when you go actually read who this is made for, the book was actually made for 16 and above. And even in my opinion, you still shouldn't be in the school system at all, even inside of high school. But they pandering this narrative like it's for little children. And that's the crazy part. And I will give Mr. Johnson the respect to say that he literally describes it as a book for 16 between grades 10 to 12 and 16-year-olds. But the propaganda that MSNBC and Miss Joy Reid here, they try to make it seem like it's for little bitty kids. Y'all should have specified, listen, at least the man did say, hey, this is not for children. This is for teenagers, 16 through 18, 10 through 12th grade and up. But that's not specified inside of this video, which in my opinion which spreads the propaganda. Talk to me. Now, a lot of school districts have banned this book, and I don't think the book should, I don't want none of my kids, or I don't care what age it is, reading about what you went through. Okay? I think that what this man should do is be a testimony and go to certain groups of individuals who have experienced this form of trauma and let your life and how you got over what you went through, let there be a testament for those individuals. There's a space for that. Totally agree, totally understand it. But when you want to sit up here and say that people can relate to this, they haven't experienced that, I don't know no man that want to read about, or no kid that want to read about that. When I go back, when I was a child, when I was a kid, I wasn't interested in that. I felt like it was wrong and it was wrong, and that's just what it is. The professionals and those who are experts in this field, who have experience in helping individuals get over these type of traumas, guess what? There's an entire lane for that. There's an entire lane for it. I get it. I thank God that I hadn't experienced it. I thank God that people that in my inner circle and my family hadn't experienced it. And I pray that they never do, in Jesus' name. Okay? But at the end of the day, the average everyday person don't want their child being exposed to sexual content based on other people's experiences, because the way they experience sexual gratification, I'm not going to say gratification, it's the wrong word. They experience their first sexual experience. It could be gratification, where it's in sexual gratification, where there's two consenting individuals, or if somebody was violated. It's not always taught the right way. That's why it's important for us as parents to communicate about sex, to communicate about what's proper and what's right and what's wrong. Okay? It's the parents' job. So we have to step up as parents and do our job in communicating certain things to our children if we don't want our children indoctrinized by a lot of this liberal media and a lot of and this world in general. Because it's not about isolating your child. It's not about isolating your child on no level from reality, right? It's just about filtering their thoughts, filtering their minds, and letting them know what's right and what's wrong. You want to let them understand, hey, if you do this, this will happen. This will be your outcome, possibly. And do you want to change the trajectory of your life based on one moment, a little 3 minutes, a little 5 minutes, or whatever the experience is? Okay? And I'm talking about consensual. Now, when somebody is violated, that's a whole nother issue, and that's an ongoing process that needs to be dealt with from a psychological level. They need therapy. They need healing. There's so many facets, things that come into play when somebody is taken advantage of. Okay? And books about the story about somebody being taken advantage of, in my opinion, should not be for educational purpose. That should be the job of the parent and for those that they seek outside of their household to help that child get professional help. Tell me what y'all think in the comments. Listen, all the men, we got to stand up. We got to keep telling the truth. We got to stand. We cannot let these people keep emasculating us. We cannot let the agenda get our children. The real men, could y'all please stand up?